I think a really important message that we want to share today as a family is people don't really know how much this affects your whole life.
Yeah.
Like, we had a normal, quiet life before this, and it affects just all your relationships, your friendships. You just don't have time for people like you used to because you're just immersed in this ridiculousness. It's very frustrating. And people don't understand the expense that landowners have gone through. No one's helping us with expenses. This is all out of pocket. And it's not easy for a lot of people. And that's a big message for people to understand. The lawfare, advertising, anything that we've been able to put our money into to help the cause, it comes out of our pockets. And it's very frustrating. It's very stressful. When we first heard about this, we have Friday night suppers with Grandpa, and the guys come, and our son brings his girlfriend, and one Friday night Grandpa came and he had Summit hats and Summit gloves. And we're like, what's this? And he's told us a story about how these guys came to his farm and he drove them all around the farm and showed him, the whole thing. And they were talking about a pipeline, which was CO2. And he said, I wasn't worried because I used to work with CO2 when I was young, so I wasn't afraid of it. And the first thing we said was, whoa, did you sign anything? And he said no, because we're talking an 85-year-old man who obviously shouldn't be approached alone without family support. So that was the very first red flag for us. So then I'm looking up CO2 pipelines on the internet, and I find Mark Lapke's name, and I call him, and he's like, who's this? And it just really got me into the pipeline family, and to see that there's other people that are fighting this, and they're as frustrated as we were. We were gonna build our house we'd waited to build for 30 years that spring.
And what happened to those plans?
Well, who's going to live by a CO2 pipeline? So now we have my elderly father is living on the farm without us, so we're out there checking on him multiple times a day, let alone our two sons want to build on the farm. So here we go. Our life is on hold, and a lot of people, you talk to them about the pipeline and they're like, oh, I don't really know much. It doesn't really concern me. And then you say eminent domain. And wow, people sit up. And this has been a huge issue when Rick and I speak to people. They're like, what are you talking about? They're coming for our land? And when we had the meeting with the rep from Summit, he said to us, either you cooperate with us now, or when we get eminent domain, we'll put the pipeline wherever we want on your land.
They said that.
He said that. I think what's been super frustrating for us too, even when we went to Pierre to testify in front of committees, and these are people that have been voted into office to work for the people. When I was testifying, one of the representatives was taking a nap. And you're like, this is not what we vote into office. This is not what you want when you vote someone in. Someone who's not listening, someone who's sleeping during testimony. Why is he even there? Summit served my deceased mother-in-law. So you're like, okay, it's not enough that she's not with us anymore, but then you don't even do enough of your homework to find out that she's no longer with us, and you serve a deceased family member. Seriously. They were gonna put the pipeline probably about 100 feet from the house we were gonna build. And not just, they were actually going to lay a kitty corner on that, from one corner to the other corner of this, so through native prairie and obviously cropland and pasture. But in the native prairie area, Rick has actually found artifacts when he was a child. So we have these artifacts in our home that he found on the family farm. And you're like, so we're just going to dig all this up? And something else we found out when we were talking to the rep, they had the construction guy there, and he was talking about the easement. And he said, well, the easement ends up being 100 feet, even though it just says 50. And I said, wait a minute, you're going to take 100 feet of 2 shelter belts, 100 feet of native prairie. I said, are you paying us for that 100 feet? Well, no, that's not part of it. So they destroy 100, pay you for 50, and you know, you look at them like, what don't you understand? It's not about the money. This was our plan for our life.
Right.
And you are trying to destroy it. Who do you think you are?
Who do you think you are? Yeah.
This is America. I think I've said this in interviews before. Like, who would believe this is happening in America? South Dakota, of all places.
Are you able to build now? I mean, or are you still threatened?
Okay, so when we testified the first year in the House, and then next year, maybe it was the same year, we testified in front of a Senate committee. And after my during my testimony, I don't remember which it was, one of the senators on the committee said, Wendy, it's been moved off of your land. And I said, how would I know that?
Right.
And I should have asked him, how would you know that before I know that? Which I found really interesting. So we did find out, unfortunately, they moved it onto our neighbor's land. And so, of course, we called our neighbors and we said, we're really sorry, and we're not going to stop fighting because this does not belong anywhere on God's green earth. And it still would be 536 feet from Grandpa's front door. So, I mean, come on. The safety issues are big enough. No one should want to live near it. But, I mean, how do you know yet what route they're actually going to use? So why would you build a home and put yourself and your family and your livestock, everything at risk when everything is questions? You don't get answers out of them. We still haven't gotten a safety study out of them. I mean, how can you trust these people?